Good morning, Aldersgate. So I have several announcements I just want to touch on before we get started. We're still collecting the fleece blankets for the infants in foster care in Southern Illinois. We're doing that through next Sunday, and there's a bin here in the lobby to collect those. If you have any questions, you can call. There's numbers provided in the bulletin, Summer Sloan and Erica Daniels, for more information on that. There is a parent meeting for youth to discuss the future of the program. That's at 6 p.m. And then on May 2nd from 7 to 7:30, parents are invited to meet a potential candidate for the youth pastor position. And I just want to encourage everyone in the congregation, just to be in continued prayer for our church and for this program. This is so important for the future. So just continue to pray for our youth and the leadership that they're searching for. That's it.
Hello, Aldersgate. I'm Reverend David Reynolds. For 41 years, I was an active pastor, first in the Southern Illinois Annual Conference, and then in the Illinois Greater Verse Annual Conference of the United Methodist Church. I grew up here in Aldersgate with Judy Hopkins and with Sarah Nielsen. As a result of having attended Beulah Youth Institute before my freshman year in Marion High School in the summer of 1962, God called me to preach. I am glad to be back in Aldersgate, and Aldersgate now is the place where I have my Charge Conference membership. Over the years, God has really blessed our ministry. We were involved in music ministry as well as preaching ministry, drama ministry, and for most of our ministry, we had an active puppet ministry. Again, it's good to be back home in Aldersgate. I do help teach the Seeker Sunday School class, and I look forward to making even more friends that I do not currently know that are part of our church family. Again, I'm so happy to be back home in Marion. I avidly support the Marion Wildcats and love our church family.
Hi, I'm Liz, David's wife, and I will tell you just a little bit about myself. I was born in Bedford, Indiana, and when I was going into the first grade, my family moved over to Sparta, Illinois. I attended Sparta High School and graduated there in 1968, attended Greenville University in Greenville, Illinois, and graduated from there in 1972. I taught 1 year elementary physical education in Columbia, Illinois, and the next year was very fortunate to go back to my alma mater and teach 5 years at Sparta High School physical education. Then moving on, I spent 2 years teaching kindergarten in Sandoval, Illinois. I have a passion for photography and take as many pictures as I can at any time. And we care and love our 2 dogs, Murphy and Cooper, and our cat, Lenny. And I'm very happy to be a part of the Aldersgate family.
subbing for Jody this morning for Call to Worship, and I think we all realize that life's slowly getting back to normal, something we all prayed for heavy last year, but with that is some busyness, and I currently am a little overcommitted with kids' activities and work schedules and other craziness, and it's just funny how God kind of provides you with what you need to hear just at the right time. So I wanted to share with you all two passages that really spoke to me this week, and I hope that, it can also give guidance to you as well. In our Sunday school class, Thrive, we are studying the Gospel of Matthew. And so one of the lessons was on paradox, and I wanted to read you a small portion. Following Christ is a paradox. To find life, we must let go of it. Or to put it more clearly, to find life as God intended, we must be willing to let go of our own demands and expectations about what life could and should look like. Only when we surrender those demands and expectations can we begin to see the kingdom come with power. That goes hand in hand with Jesus' calling that I also read the same day, ironically. Walk with me in holy trust, responding to my initiatives rather than trying to make things fit your plans. I died to set you free, and that includes freedom from compulsive planning. When your mind spins with a multitude of thoughts, you cannot hear my voice. A mind preoccupied with planning pays homage to the idol of control. Turn from this idolatry back to me. Listen to me and live abundantly. These both just have in common, surrendering fully to Him to lead the life He would like us to lead.
Good morning, Aldersgates. So great to be in God's house, amen. Let's stand together and worship our mighty King.
Lord.
Let us pray. Lord, thank you for this beautiful Sunday morning. We come to you in prayer this morning, asking for the type of focus that only you can provide in this busy world. Help us to focus on the greatness of you, the life you have planned for us. Help us take any distractions and realize they are trivial earthly struggles in comparison to the joy you will bring that is everlasting. Instead of us trying to remove the distractions, help us embrace the distractions and keep the focus always pointing to you. In your loving name, amen.
Good morning. I'm Brooke Bizard from Cunningham Children's Home, and I'm so excited to be here to worship and share my message with you all this morning. So this may be the first time you're meeting me, or maybe you've heard a little bit about Cunningham, but I know a lot of you out in this congregation, because this church, despite being 2.5 or so hours away from Cunningham Children's Home in Urbana, Illinois, supports our kids at a tremendous level. And so I'm so grateful to finally be here in person to get to talk about the ways that you all are impacting the lives of the youth and children and families that we serve. I'm so grateful for the Home Builders Sunday School class that has been giving so faithfully over the past 5+ years. There were, months last year during the pandemic where your Home Builders Sunday School were some of the only gifts that came in. So I'm so grateful. Your UMW is active and thriving, making quilts for our kids, providing hope gifts, gift cards for Christmas, and I could go on. So thank you before I even start sharing these messages for the work and the love that so many of you are already doing. I think too, as we kind of return to some of the busyness, as Liz mentioned, there's peace and comfort that we find in worshiping together, and that's really never been more important, as we've all found, than this past year when so many of our traditional worship practices have been disrupted. So it makes gathering together to honor God even more special. And it's really good to follow signs that tell us to yield and kind of pause from that busyness, or even stop for a while and feel God's presence. Hopefully venture out into the world again. It's starting to feel a little bit more like that big traffic jam we left, back at the beginning of 2020. But I think as we look back at this past year, all of us have done really great at adapting to new rules. Stayed home as much as we could. We were wearing masks, keeping a distance from people, even people we love. And, really until this past month, we weren't even singing in church. So, there's been lots of new rules, and some of them have definitely been easier to follow than others. But at the end of the day, rules are rules. And I think most of us would agree that especially in uncertain times like we've had, that rules can be a good thing. Rules can keep us safe, they keep us healthy, they can protect those around us. Rules can be very important. Now, when John Wesley founded the Methodist movement, he formed societies back in 1739, and those first set of Methodists, they really wanted some rules, right? Not bad rules, not too many rules, but a few good rules. And they asked him to come up with some, and John obliged, and he named them 3 simple rules. The first, do no harm. The second, do good. And the third, stay in love with God. Now, I think Judge Joseph and Mary Cunningham took these simple rules to heart when they deeded their home to the women of the Methodist Episcopal Church, which today, of course, we know as the United Methodist Women. So in 1895, over 125 years ago, on the day they gave their home to serve a greater purpose of taking care of children in need, Judge Joe wrote in his journal, "May God's blessings go with this gift, and may it be the means of doing much good." So even though at Cunningham Children's Home we're no longer that traditional orphanage, I really believe that Judge Joe and Mary would be so pleased that their gift continues to follow the simple rules in the way that we serve our youth and families today. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about Cunningham, and then we're going to follow along with a rule, and I'm going to tell how it's impacting the kids today. At Cunningham, we serve youth, young adults, and families that are dealing with serious emotional and behavioral challenges. Last year, we provided care to 777 individuals. I love that number because it's a big one, but it's also easy to remember. So 777. And we serve these families and youth through 3 main programs: residential treatment, community-based counseling services, and special education. Most of the people we serve are referred to us through state and community child welfare agencies. 55% of those that we serve are children, youth, and young adults between the ages of 10 and 19 years old. And one of the common misconceptions that a lot of people have about Cunningham is that our kids come from Chicago, way up north, and have been sent downstate to live in the country. But that actually couldn't be further from the truth. So 95% of them come from central Illinois, which we define as within a 2-hour radius of Champaign-Urbana. So yes, we're just a little bit out of that central Illinois radius here, but I can share that we do have about 3% of the youth that come from the southern part of the state. And again, I referenced it before, but I really do think that Wesley's 3 simple rules apply to how we live out our mission every day at Cunningham, and that those simple rules really impact the kind of care that we give our kids and the families we serve. So I'd like to share with you some of the ways, and for the first rule, do no harm, I want to share about a youth and his family. This is Julian. And all of a sudden, Julian had multiple run-ins with law enforcement within a really short period of time. This was unusual and a little bit scary because Julian had always been one of those good kids. He'd done well in school, he participated in extracurricular activities. So it was very scary and confusing about how quickly all of a sudden his life was changing direction and spiraling down a pretty troubling path. But that's when Julian agreed to participate in Cunningham's Family Stronger Together program. This is one of our community-based counseling services, and it's designed to interrupt that school-to-prison pipeline, and it's a voluntary program for first-time offenders in the juvenile justice system. And it's really, what makes it special, it's designed not only to provide support for the troubled individual, but their family as well, because we recognize that their family. For Julian, he was in a Zoom therapy session with 2 of Cunningham's family support therapists and his parents, and in talking with our staff, it was the first time that Julian was able to vocalize that he was experiencing both audio and visual hallucinations. So he'd had previous meetings with counselors and police, but he'd never been able to piece together the triggers that were contributing to this out-of-character behavior until this moment. And so with this new information about Julian and his mental health struggles, the Family Stronger Together team was able to work with his parents to put communication together to the state's attorney about what he was experiencing, as well as get him some referrals for psychiatric and mental health care. And thankfully, the state's attorney recognized that this development and new information really indicated that Julian was more in need of mental health services rather than charges that could eventually lead to a prison term. But Family Stronger Together is just one of Cunningham's many community service programs which work with children, adults, and families who are facing difficult life situations. These programs help individuals who are facing homelessness, mental illness. We work with foster families that are experiencing behavioral changes with youth that threatens the stability of them remaining in that foster home setting. We work with transitional and independent living opportunities for runaway and homeless youth, parenting and life skills education for young single parents, and vocational options for individuals with intellectual and behavioral disabilities. And our staff are bringing their knowledge and expertise in trauma-informed care, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a second, to reach families in crisis and in communities that span 14 different counties throughout Illinois. So Shalane, so actually if you look on the PowerPoint here, Shalane is the lovely lady, the blonde on the left, in that first long picture. And Shalane, one of our community services caseworkers, says, everyone deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. Whether it's a mental health or substance abuse issue or someone just down on their luck, sometimes people just need that helping hand or boost to get on track. Seeing individuals come into our program wondering where they are going to sleep that night or get their next meal is truly heartbreaking, but knowing that you can make a difference in someone's life is a great feeling. The need is great. This past year, we served over 500 individuals and families through our community service programs, and we have more on the waiting lists. But because of Cunningham, Julian, and so many others have a chance to receive the care that they need to get back on a better path. The second rule, do good. So above Miss Overman's desk in her Circle Academy classroom hangs a picture of dandelions painted by her mother. So that's that painting there in the bottom left. Miss Overman explained, when my siblings and I were younger, we would always bring dandelions to my mom. And, dandelions are actually weeds, but we always saw them as flowers. Seeing beauty where others may not has really stuck with Mrs. Overman throughout her life and her career as an educator. And youth who participate in our Circle Academy education programs in Urbana, Illinois, and Rossville, Illinois, they actually live with their families in surrounding communities, but they have unique behavioral and emotional challenges which have prevented them from being successful in a public school setting. So our therapeutic educational model identifies the individual needs and strengths of each student, and we build on the strengths rather than the weaknesses, and we support those strengths both academically and behaviorally. The goal is to help the students make progress and be able to successfully return to public school at some point. Ms. Overman says, I set the bar high because I've worked in public schools and I want these kids to be prepared for what will be expected of them academically and behaviorally when they return to public school setting. And Ms. Overman, she has a really unique approach. She runs her classroom more like a school family, as she prefers to call it, and her focus is on the entire classroom unit being successful, involved, and holding everyone accountable. She's direct and firm, but she's also very loving. Her response to student behavior isn't to correct the negative, but to use positive statements that enforce the good. So comments like, I like how your hands are at your side when you walk. Way to get back on track. Or touchdown, good job. Those encourage positive behavior by pointing out the responsible decision that they're making to excel in their day. Mara, who's one of her enthusiastic students, when asked about what she thinks of Miss Overman, I love it, there also sits a picture of Miss Overman's mom to complement the painting. And it's a reminder, the dandelion painting is a reminder to see the beauty even when others don't. And Miss Overman always says, I tell my students, I see flowers when I look at you. And while our staff across all of Cunningham's departments, they do much good, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the good that our youth do. And I was actually the recipient of some of this good, and I wanted to share that with you. So this was the Tuesday just before Christmas. I'm plugging away at my desk. That's a really busy time at Cunningham. We have lots of Christmas festivities and are finishing up assigning gifts for each of the kids. And all of a sudden, through that silence and kind of me plugging away, I heard someone screaming my name in the lobby of our Spiritual Life Center. And I just hear, Brooke! Brooke! Where's Brooke? Kind of echoing loudly, and I'm startled, and I peek around my office door just in time to see Chaplain Gay point one of our youth, Jeremy, my way. And he kind of bursts into my office, and he goes, I've got friendship bracelets. And, I made them myself, and I want you to have one. And he had this little carrying case, and he flung it open, and there were over 50 of these tri-colored braided bracelets, and he started rattling off what his inventory color is. I've got orange, I've got blue, I've got brown, and Jeremy had made these bracelets to give to staff members to show how much he appreciated everything that they do for him. And, I know that Jeremy probably doesn't exactly know what my job is at Cunningham. We'd seen each other around, but Chaplain Gay had explained to him that I was part of our advancement team, so we help get donations so that the Cunningham kids can have clothing, special outings, and Christmas presents. So, he wanted to make sure that I got one. So I think Jeremy's actually a pretty smart kid, right? Buttering up the one that helps coordinate those activities. And as I looked over Jeremy's collection of bracelets, he was delighted to learn that my favorite color is orange, just like his. And he picked out an orange bracelet for me. He said goodbye, and he was gone just as quickly as he arrived. So all of this activity and then just silence, as I'm kind of sitting there trying to figure out what just happened, But I was really overwhelmed by his kind gesture and his spirit of generosity. You could really see how proud he was of the bracelets and how much care he had taken in making them, and that he truly felt joy by giving me joy, and that was really sincere and sweet. So here's some pictures of my bracelet. I'm modeling it. I actually have it in my bag. I don't like to wear it because it got a little ratty, and I think it's so special. And there's also Jeremy making his bracelets. And it was really good to see Jeremy excited because he'd suffered a pretty big disappointment right around this time. Jeremy's one of our youth that's been very focused and vocal about wanting to become part of a family. And he would talk about that he wanted a family with a mom and dad and siblings, and he had had that opportunity with a foster family in the fall, but for whatever reason, it just didn't work out. He actually went and lived with them for a little bit and then came back, and he was very, very discouraged. So as Chaplain Gay was helping Jeremy work through this difficult time, they talked about positive things and activities that Jeremy could focus on. And she shared with him this Bible verse from Acts chapter 20, verse 35. In everything I did, I showed you that by this kind of hard work, we must help the weak, remembering the words that Lord Jesus himself said, "It is more blessed to give than to receive." So after talking with Chaplain Gay, Jeremy began his big friendship bracelets project, and he really feels that if he participates in meaningful acts of kindness during his hard time, that goodness will find his way back to him. Doing nice things for others gives Jeremy hope. The third rule, stay in love with God. Jeremy was part of our residential treatment program, and I want to talk about another one of our youth, Damien, who's also part of that program. And Damien really has struggled to manage his emotions, and it was pretty common, particularly when he first arrived, for him to have multiple violent outbursts every day. But through therapy and love and the support of Cunningham's staff, Damien has learned coping mechanisms that help him better control his behavior, which has helped him grow in a lot of ways, including spiritually. And Terrence is a staff member that works with Damien, and Terrence recalls some of their first conversations. So Terrence said that during my first year, Damien saw me praying a few times during quiet time, and he started to ask, how does prayer work? And over time, this turned into teaching him how to pray by starting with just having an open conversation with God. And one night, we came across the Proverbs verse that says, trusting in God can make your path easier. And we talked about how our own way of thinking could take us down the wrong path, as well as the hurdles we face while going down that path. Following that talk, Damien had a really good span of 2 straight weeks without any anger or outbursts. Our conversations really stuck with him. A lot of things, though, that Terrence has taught Damien have made a difference, and this is what Damien says about Terrence. Terrence taught me to take life one day at a time. He helps me to have fun, smile, be respectful, loving, and caring. It doesn't always show, but inside I really care for others. Not only do I want to love others, but I want to love others like Jesus did. I want to grow up and give to others what I have been given here. So our kids, like Jeremy and Damien, they live with us 24/7, and they receive some of the best care throughout the state. They come to us after an average of 7 other placements, and that's probably on the low end. So they've lived in 7 other homes by the time they come to Cunningham. And our kids display psychological and behavioral disorders that have been the result of repetitive and prolonged trauma involving sustained abuse or abandonment by a caregiver. And at Cunningham, we really recognize the role that trauma has played in their young lives and how it's just overwhelmed them and their ability to cope. Okay, this is the part here, bear with me. We're going to get into a little bit of science. But our traumatized youth are operating from the lower part of the brainstem, where it's all about survival mode, rather than being able to use the frontal part of their brain system, which is where they can learn to control their behavior, regulate their emotions, develop coping skills. So you see on this slide, we've got 2 brains. The brain on the right, that's been the brain that was exposed to sustained trauma and stress, has all that darkness on top, right? So all the healthy connections and pathways, all those the color you see in the healthy brain, those healthy pathways to the front part never had a chance to develop because these youth were always in a state of stress, worried about, where they were going to have access to food, were they going to have to dodge an abuser, were they going to have a place to sleep that night. So they were only capable in a situation of operating from that lower part of the brainstem, where really the only decisions you can make are, do I stay and fight or flee, fight or flight. So just all these states of fight or flight. And when you're in that state of fight and flight, you're always operating from a heightened state of alertness. So we're going to visualize real quick here. So I want you to kind of understand what that internal state is like. So you're on your way to church this morning. It's a beautiful morning. The birds are singing. You're bopping along, and you see, that's a new bird. I haven't seen that one in a while. And you look up in front of you, and that car in front of you has slammed on their brakes. You see it at the last second. You slam on your brakes, foot to the floor. You grip the steering wheel really tight. And thankfully, you got a guardian angel this morning. You come up just short of that bumper in front of you. And you think, whew, that was a close one. Thank you, Jesus. I'm glad, I'm going to take a couple deep breaths, calm down. Your heart slows down. It's not jumping out of your chest anymore. Well, you have the coping skills in a stressful situation to regulate your body and recognize that the stress and danger has passed and to calm down. Our kids don't have those coping skills. So that crazy, scared state, that's what they feel like internally all the time. They need therapeutically sensitive interventions to help get them developmentally back on track and develop those good coping skills. So at Cunningham, we respond with a community of highly skilled and caring staff, and we listen and work with our youth to provide the type of environment that they need. At Cunningham, we don't ask these kids what they've probably heard a lot through their life, which is like, why are you doing this, when they're acting out. At Cunningham, we ask, what happened to you? Because we recognize that if we can help them work through their trauma, process their past, learn to self-regulate, we can help them move forward and develop healthier relationships in the future. So, okay, that was my little science part of the lesson today. But let's go back to Wesley's 3 simple rules. You know, when you really think about the 3 simple rules, I think there's no doubt that they can be transformative in all of our lives. It's like a gift that's been given to us that we can continue to grow in us. And sometimes these rules are demonstrated in a way that we never expect. Wednesday night, she leads worship for our youth. Now, during COVID times, that meant that not all our youth are gathering together at once. And this continued on for a couple minutes until all of a sudden, Chaplain realized that Ethan was no longer saying, drink and be thankful. And she looked over at him, and Ethan had tears streaming down his face. He was too emotional to speak. And after the service, she talked with him, and Ethan explained that as he was offering Christ's love to others, he had experienced Jesus in his own heart. So really, to follow Wesley's simple rules, at the end of the day, it just means to love. Love is the very basis of Christian life. We're all given love as a gift from God. When we keep it to ourselves, though, you're surely going to lose it. But if we share it and give it away, we won't ever have to worry about having enough. And that's a pretty good rule to follow. Thank you.
Let's stand together in worship. My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest frame, but only lean on Jesus' name. On Christ the solid rock I stand, all other ground is sinking sand, all other ground is sinking sand. When darkness veils his lovely face, I rest on his unchanging grace. In every high and stormy gale, my anchor holds within the veil. On Christ the solid rock I stand, all other ground is sinking sand, all other ground is sinking sand. When he shall come with trumpet sound, may I then in him be found. Rest in his righteousness alone, faultless to stand before the throne. On Christ the solid rock I stand, all other ground is sinking sand.
Pastor Lance usually does the benediction and prayer from the back of the church, but so please be gracious God. As we started today's worship, we heard about busyness and how thankfully we are all able to start adding some of that busyness back into our routine. But please, Lord, don't let us get so caught up in the busyness that we forget about the love that we all found this past year. Love for family, love of home, love of peace, love in gathering, love in work, love in joy, love in life. Go forth in love. Amen.